Octave Rising.
So here we are in beautiful South Africa on the garden route. And Justine, you have just had an amazing medicine journey that you would like to share. And we are here with Zelkia and Matthew and myself, Zane, some of the most beautiful beings on the planet. So, go ahead.
Okay. In the beginning, there was sound, the song of the universe. For the first 2 hours, there was almost nothing. I was feeling distinct points, like pressure points on my body being touched as part of the introduction of the scan for areas of work. And then Zelkia came in and served me another dose, and I immediately went into visioning. I was floating in front of mountains with blue and purple sunset sky, almost like a Patagonia logo. There were mountains with horizontal stripes of color, very distinct. There was a basin below me, like a crater on this planet, and I was just floating horizontally above the surface of the planet and started spinning. I was a female being, and the spinning turned me into a craft. So I myself became a spacecraft. And this horrific, disgusting, artificial squid, octopus spider crawled into the basin below me. And it was massive insectoid, like War of the Worlds frequency, that book. Wow. Yeah, it was massive. Okay. And I turned the being into light. Easy, effortless, just turned this being into pure light. And then unimaginable numbers poured forth from this planet, from the depths of the planet, crawling all over the planet. And so I dropped into the core of the planet and turned the entire planet and everything that was moving there, because these beings are not alive, and so referencing them as life forms is not even appropriate, and just turned the whole thing to light. And
wow. Thank you.
The scale of this terrorized me, and I began to cry. And I started to move through the galaxies and our universe, seeing the scale of what we name destruction taking place, not understanding the purpose, because these beings, these artificial beings that are creating these forms, are attracted to life like a moth to a candle flame, and they're obsessed with it, and they don't feel. So there's not actually a good or a bad associated with what they're doing. It's an obsessive thing to try and mimic creation. And that's what they are trying to do, but there is no point, because in doing this, they're destroying creation. And so I asked the medicine, at what density is there no infiltration of this? And they said the 13th dimension, which is pure source frequency. That's the great central sun frequency. And at higher dimensions, it has been seen too, but because Earth holds multidimensional realities, this can act as a drain plug to pull out all of the infiltrations in all densities and dimensions. And there's something too about doing this through the physical form, because on higher dimensional planes that are pure light, energy, essence, plasma, beingness, it's actually more challenging to clear the infiltration. And there's something special about being embodied in this density and clearing it from this density that is absolute and that brings it through. And because we're multidimensional and this planet is multidimensional, that ability to clear as a drain plug is absolute. And you, Zelkia, when you came in and checked on me, we were talking about this, and you might have even used that word drain plug, and it was like, yes, that absolutely is the importance of this planet and what we're doing here. And so I could feel the significance of this level. And in the New Age transformational community, we talk about the fifth dimension a lot, and we're ascending to the fifth dimension, 5D Earth, and that is bullshit. We are bringing multidimensionality down through us into our expression and creating it through us here now. We're not going anywhere. 5D doesn't solve all of our problems. 5D has infiltration too. We have to do the work. There's no escaping this necessary component of facing what's inside of our bodies and clearing it. It is not ours, but we do need to clear it, because what we've done is invited it in. So the download that I got to explain the parasitic infiltration is you have this great dinner party with your friends, and one friend leaves a spoon, one friend leaves a bowl, and one friend leaves a scarf. And you know that they're not yours, and they forgot that they left them there. They don't even remember. And for some reason, they've moved or gone away, and you can't return these items. So now you have to make a choice. Am I going to make room for this in my space, move my things aside and take this bowl and put it into my kitchen and say, this is mine? At some point when we take these things, we say, now this is mine. So we've given it permission. This bowl that is a metaphor for a parasite that was somebody else's, that we took on and in. And as soon as you say, now this is my bowl, now this is my parasite, this is my thought form, you give it permission to embody into you. And so going to 5D, living, transforming into this less dense space, I'm sorry, you can't bypass the work that we chose to do to come in here. And so we need to take responsibility for choosing. And that choice is an acknowledgement of responsibility of our co-creative Godhead essence.
Oh.
Well put.
Okay.
So I would love, Zelkia, with your work,
Yes.
obviously one of the things I think is so special about this cleansing process is you're working through all of the dimensional layers all the way down to the ugly, nasty, literal, physical, like poop parasites,
Yes.
nastiness, infiltration coming out of the body. And by clearing those distortions out of our field, because I think just for a little context, right, we're in the middle of a multi-dimensional war, essentially, with a synthetic and organic timeline. And this has been raging for millions of years. And we come to Earth. Earth is this gem in the cosmos, right? And we came here to transmute the infiltration and the inversions here. And what you guys have figured out, what you've brought in, is this way by looking at the densest of dense, this nasty filth that's literally inhabiting parts of our body and hijacking our consciousness and distorting our reality projection. You have identified that, and when you look at like a parasite in the toilet, it creates this neurological activation where suddenly you see the way the infiltration matrix is working through your body. And so I think the drain plug analogy is so apt because there is this concentration of energy in the lower densities. Earth has been pulled down into this lower density by the infiltration. And so there's more energy and less space, so to speak. Like it's like thick energy. And so when we clear it here, when we clear it at this density as a parasite that we flush down the toilet, it does drain it from all the dimensions above as well. So I would love to hear you talk about your process a bit if you are so inclined. But
Okay. I think I would start with stripping out the body and pulling out of the density that's within us, and you have a good look at all that you see in the pan, which then relates to all of the events taking place on our planet right in front of us. We've been shown that genetically modified and engineered foods and pesticides and pharmaceuticals and the way that our world currently is polluting everything, including our bodies, is the whole planetary event starts moving through, and that's self-responsible being reconnecting to creation as the grand custodian and steward and the creator of creation, coming all the way back to the grand architect, is possible when we look at the darkness we eliminate, the density through which our beings have been for thousands of lifetimes, the breaking the chains of the forefathers, and the opening up of the stellar gateway so that our supreme selves may enter once again, so that we remember who we are, and the first time of thought and frequency projection in order for creation to take place, which we are currently existing within, and so then awakening within that state, coming into our ultimate truth once again, and then coming together as the one collective mind and heart of the ones that have come here to bring in the one vision of the immaculate concept and design of the planet herself and ourselves as part of creation, and projecting our creation with absolute precision, and then seeing how the immaculate design will take form. That's what I think so.
Do you have anything to add?
No.
After that,
I think she about got that one. Thank you.
yay, thank you. So
Thank you.
please, Justine, carry on.
Wow.
So to summarize that, because 3D is so dense, it's actually easier. Flushing and cleansing the body is simpler than light surgery, right?
Yes.
I mean, try doing light surgery, people, right now. I'd rather flush my bum.
Yeah, that's physical. Light surgery
Yeah.
works on light frequency,
Yeah.
and we are very solid
Very physical.
Yes.
frequency.
Yes. And that is still occurring. So the light surgery is still occurring, but the body is doing the heavy lifting of processing and transmuting the filth, the infiltration, and it's designed for that. Your colon processes everything you put into your field and your body and creates waste and eliminates it. We designed it to do that. That is amazing. So leveraging the immaculate design of this form to process and transmute filth and let it go out of our bodies as poop that we can flush out of the toilet. I mean, it's beautiful and simple and funny, and we need to honor creation by acknowledging that we're not just eating food and making poop. We're taking dense filth energetically and physically and processing it and coming out radiant, beautiful, and clean. And we're designed to do this.
And just since there's no camera here, we're sitting across from two beautiful goddess ladies who are not afraid to look in the pan and dig through poop.
With
and
our dresses.
I mean, truly, it's
And to godhood men who honor
Divine
and
masculine.
compliment
Zane and
divine.
we have
Yes.
the perfect balance.
Mm,
So it's
very complimentary here. Zelkia came in and held my hand as I told her about the importance of Earth.
Ooh.
Then I received the Earth into my heart, my love. She moved through me from my heart into my womb, and I gave birth to Nova Gaia. And behind me stood masculine, divine, sun, Godhead, radiant. And that's what we're doing, all of us, is acknowledging our love for our mother and taking responsibility for our co-creation and creating this beautiful planet together. And Rhoda came in and I told her. Then there was chaos. The most intense buzzing started the scan, and I could feel the pressure of the sound on my body, primarily my brain. They were going to perform light surgery that lasted more than the 24 hours, but sometimes it would switch to other areas. And so as that started, they were scanning the body, and moving down the body and then back to the brain. and it was so chaotic, and I started to get these chaotic visions, and there was this window that would appear in my vision that was like sepia toned, sort of green tan, and it would be like really detailed visions of random shit, like a tractor would come in. I'm like, this little tractor, and all these other visions are going on here, and this little screen would come in like, and here's a little tractor, and then it would go away.
Oh my God, it's so familiar.
Yes. And so this is obviously the defrag process starting, but
Wow.
it's interesting because I got that whole vision before, and I was like, is this what this journey is going to be like? This immaculate, transmission, and my body felt really good. And then as soon as the buzzing started, I started to feel nauseous, and a lot of fear came up. And last time, my emotional body was completely disengaged, and I was totally calm in my physical form and had no emotional response. And this was an emotional defrag. And so all this fear came up, and all these storylines of like, did they forget about me and abandon me down here? Am I going to die? Was I served too much? All of this distortion around fear. And it felt like hours of going through this scared fear coming up, this scared little girl that had lived inside of me, and at the top of every ski run is inside of me going, don't do it, Justine, you're gonna die. And that I've been living with, and I didn't know, and it's been suppressed, and I've managed it. And so that was coming up, and finally I recognized, oh, right, we're on a medicine journey. We took this medicine to clear this, so let's clear it. And so my defrag is like these gates, and the night sky is surrounding me and behind the gates, and I can just run it through the gates, and boom, it's cleared forever. And so I ran fear through, and it cleared, and then I ran it through for humanity, and then I purged.
Wow. Yes.
Thank you.
So, and also at that time, there were other intense, chaotic, and very distinct visions that would come through of like these roller coasters. So the last time I sort of described this as like nighttime carnival, and these beings are like, hee, and you're going through this like really intense density, and then you clear it, and they're like, hee, wee. And I start,
so familiar.
yeah. And do you want to? Okay. I started to get this beeping that had come through last time. That's do 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 do. And there was also the buzzing didn't happen last time. That was new, and that was quiet in comparison with the buzzing. And the ocean waves were in the background the whole time supporting me, and sometimes I would just breathe into the sound of the ocean for reprieve. I asked them to turn down the noise on the light surgery, and they told me to occupy myself.
For how long?
And then at that time, you guys would come and check in on me, and I couldn't talk. And it was just very nauseous, and I would think of something I wanted to say, and you would come in, and it's like, I don't understand what's going on. I felt really overwhelmed, and I would just and reach out for your hand and just and what was interesting, though, is my inner voice was speaking very clearly this whole time and sort of describing what was going on and creating a list of everything going on so I could write it down and remember it also.
That's special.
Which was so interesting, because then when you would come in, there was there wasn't this translation, like you're so lucid, which is very interesting, but then the connection to the communication centers in the body weren't present, and I felt so nauseous. And so that was the fear.
Could we take a moment maybe to discuss, like, I would love, I don't know if either of you, Zokir or Matthew, have insight into like what's actually happening dimensionally during that buzzing. And then I think also maybe talking just briefly about the defrag process, because they're both, I mean, I don't know. It feels like that's part of the light surgery of like separating dimensionally out these layers, and it's almost like a byproduct, but that's my interpretation. And I would love to hear, you guys have worked a lot with the medicine.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to hear what you would have to say about like the initial part of that question, and with I think like maybe speaking to the defrag process, it's very interesting because I actually had, within my own organization of what occurs during the defrag on the medicine, I learned something during yours when we cleansed you and our other friend, and of seeing, like I in my own mind, I had always arranged the defrag as purely the clean out of the extraneous junk, all the detritus that has been like picked up in our field, stored inappropriately in our memory field. And then I would always, in my own association, move then into kind of the deeper level of processing when the emotional energy is coming up. And I kind of viewed that as a separate thing. And in hearing you recount your first experience, you were linking them as a defrag. And I think you also were referring in the same way that like, and I began seeing it going, oh, okay, like that's interesting. It's maybe there are like different bandwidths of frequency then that are being applied within this process, because it does seem different than the journeying that I've experienced when I'm in a flow state of like lucid consciousness, and it's like it's another thing. And so like with that, the medicine is able to perform this scan, and I've had it at different intensities as well, kind of like you were describing. And the scan identifies distortions at multiple layers of your field, maybe the entire field, right? And as those are identified, and they've been identified through the cleanse process that you guys have developed with, utilizing the microdose, the filament microdoses, the other plant medicines that are involved, have this comprehensive, working together. It's like a synergistic working together to identify all of the different distortions and be able to clear them through their appropriate means, whatever that looks like. And so by the time you hit the primary iboga journey, and a lot of it has already been moved through this defrag process, and then it seems like that first wave is just reorganizing all of the extraneous stuff. And then there, in my experience and what I've heard others share, then you move into deeper levels where there's more trauma that is like tied in. It's not just inappropriately stored material. It's actually, foundational to the core of like the wounding and trauma patterns that we express in our lives as distortion. And so, in the beginning, when I first had experienced this, and you find yourself reliving these moments then, and it's like, maybe you've got a separated perspective, like you're disjoined from the emotional connection, so you're not re-traumatizing yourself, like caught in the loop. And so there's this disconnection that the medicine is able to facilitate, which allows then like where you can see all sides of the situation, and that was my part right in that one. Okay, got it. And in that moment, like it's like, boo, it's like cleared right out of your field. Exactly. And then you sometimes hear the guides are like, yay, and they cheer you on, and so that's I have come to maybe understand that is like the defrag process extends into even that clearing and the uprooting, and then then you get reorganized, right? And maybe there's purging involved, maybe there's necessary things like technology coming out of your body or whatever that needs to be cleared. And then once that it kind of gets reorganized and has calmed down, then it seems maybe that the defrag segment of the journey expires, or not expires, but like it comes to a stop, and then you like other things begin opening because the surgery and that level of your field has been conducted.
Right. Beautifully put.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have anything
We were
to
talking
add?
about the buzz, the iboga.
Yeah, the buzz,
Yes.
like what that is
What have you
dimensionally.
seen? I want to know.
Wow, I've had many years of holding space, and listening to many different beings coming from science or being scientists to very high frequency beings connected to the earth. So I would hear beings say things such as the bioresonance of the earth's frequencies aligning with our frequencies, and we are feeling into that bioresonance to the frequency of the blood fields flowing, the magnetic fields of the blood flowing. I've heard some people make that comment.
Torsion fields as it flows through the body. Yeah.
And your own fields, and all the way through to somebody thinking the whole night, no matter how many times you tell them, it's a mosquito or a fly. And then yes, I mean the frequencies with it. I mean it's a scan and a treatment, and we do know that it's almost like ingesting pure source, knowing that we are here in these times for our upgrades and DNA activations, and so the God frequency is resonating through our physical frequency, upgrading and transmuting the energies that are dense as we see the visions and feel the defrags and the emotional clearings. It's like whew, like this dense air breathing in and out, going and it's that frequency of creation, maybe. Who knows? It's like so many it's given many. One other one was one of my experiences was breaking through the sound barrier. So I had this like and that was without medicine. About 26 years ago, I was in a room on my own, and I was lying on the bed, and the whole room actually started going and the whole reality started, and my whole body started becoming frequency. Everything was frequency, and the sound was so loud, and I knew something massive was about to happen, but I just couldn't let it happen. I was like, I'm not ready. And I waited 8 years. I was like, oh please, I'm sorry, I'll never do that again, please bring it back. 8 years. I was like, I'm ready, I promise, I'm gonna surrender, I won't ever do that again. Nothing. 8 years later, I lay in my bed and I looked down, and this triangle appeared in front of me, and the whole room started vibrating. Same the iboga, and I went through this gateway into the musical orchestra spheres of creation. And the bliss was so intense, I couldn't function for 5 days. I had to come into my body. And I really, feel like that is the God frequency.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is like extremely advanced organic light technology, right? Like we've talked little bits and pieces here and there about all the beings that collaborated and came together, these amazing multidimensional beings operating through the layers of densities and bringing in these different tools and this apparatus. And so it's almost like, like that buzzing is a byproduct of, I can almost see it like we've talked about a sieve or like a screen moving through your field, and it's pulling out all the little distortions, like separating them out of your field, and that buzzing almost feels like it could be a byproduct of that process as it pulls out, and again, like separating the layers apart. Like they want to snap back together, but to do that light surgery, it has to pull these dimensional layers open so it gains access to all of these different parts and pieces to do the most precise surgery you've ever witnessed. It's amazing precision, masterful.
I remember on my first journey being obsessed with watching them because of the precision. It's like taking tweezers into a finely crocheted lace and just reorganizing the threads to create the most perfect geometries. And then you zoom in and there's more perfect geometries, and you zoom in and there's to down to every level and back out to every level. And in the beginning, during it took 2 hours this time. You said when you gave me my second serving, it had been 2 hours, and nothing had happened. There were just those points, but I did complain about a fly when the men came in to check on me, and there was a praying mantis that Zane relocated that was on the window that was maybe and hitting the glass. But Matthew did ask, are you sure it's not the iboga? And I was like, no, it's really a fly. And
well, it was before you had even been served, I think. And so what was interesting is there was this dimensional bleed through. It was out of linear time already. And you were in the journey even before you had physically ingested
And I
anything.
had told Rhoda when she came in after my flush, before I was served, I had told Rhoda I was starting to get when you open your eyes and you see the visual light tracers, I was starting to already see that before. So that is, out of phase.
Continue,
Okay.
I think.
At one point, I saw something that was so clearly not mine, and I shouted in my mind, "That's not even mine!" And the beings all cheered and played little trumpets. Do-do-do-do-do. Like, good job, you're clearing for the planet. You figured it out. And then I realized that I'm really doing this for the planet. So then my whole defrag this time lasted what felt like 6 hours, which is always really hard to tell because time really dilates. But after fear came worry. They really go together. You know, when you're afraid of something, you're worrying about all these things. And so worry came in, and I could feel, that kind of archetypal older woman worry anxiety program that so many women get. That's just worried about everything all the time. And so I cleared that, sent it through the gates. Then we had regret, shame, loss, self-loathing. I purged for self-loathing. I didn't have to see all of it, but I saw enough. Suicide and eating disorders, rape, murder, weird, creepy shit. And that's actually really important for me because I had talked to you at one point after a flush, a release after a flush. I released this amazing thing that was, I've always been sort of like weird and creepy and had this dark side to me. It mostly comes out in my artwork. And my friends say it. They're like, I love you because you have this kind of like weird, creepy side. And it actually wasn't mine.
Right.
And I'm here to bring beauty through. And I can acknowledge insects and worms in the soil. But there was this distortion that came in from going to raves in high school when I was a teenager in Pittsburgh, where I grew up, where I saw things that I didn't need to see and experience things from a traumatic event that happened with a boyfriend in high school. And then just kind of indulging in that like nasty, weird, creepy thing. And so that was, with all of these, there's like an element of personal, right? And through that personal experience, you can relate to the collective. Totally. So I personally haven't been raped, but I know so many women that are very close to me that have that experience. So I still have that emotional attachment. And through the emotional attachment, you can bring up this thing that you have in you that you carry with you, and then clear it for yourself, and then you can clear it for the whole.
And that's such an important point, that the holographic process. I know you don't love that word, Zalkia, but it's like, to the best of my linguistics, it is this process where you move, fractal process, you move it through your body, you move it through the entire planet, you move it through all of organic creation, the entire universe. Right, and it's all at once, and they're all linked in the same quantum field of intelligence, and it happens immediately through the entire chain, dimensionally, top to bottom.
Yeah, drain plug.
Yeah,
Totally.
Drain plug out. I would see the words and hear them. In addition to seeing the essence of the thing, I didn't have to see scenes, of rape, but there was this like quality to the visions, and I would hear the word and see the word. And then a train of filth would go through the nighttime carnival gates and clear, Pornography, purge. Pharmaceuticals, purge. Anger. I'm angry. So going through all of this brought up anger, and I've struggled with anger my whole life. And it just came up as like, well, aren't I allowed to be angry at this? But no, let's clear that through. So anger went through. And really, I'm angry and was angry about this because I love. I don't hate artificial intelligence. I don't hate infiltration. I just love creation so much. And so tracing all of these emotions back to love, what happens when you clear all of these emotions, what's left is love. And so recognizing that I don't need to project anger because that is a distorted emotion and it does hurt me. It hurts my field. I'm angry because I love. Yes, let's return back to that love frequency. And love is where the wounds come from. So love is a gift, and we broadcast our love, and we also expect, as we deserve, the reciprocation of that love that we broadcast. And so when you're a child, you come out loving your mother, you come out loving your father, you come out loving this planet. And when you don't feel it in return, if you experience abuse or neglect or shame from education because you're not the same as everybody, because nobody's actually the same, a void is left in your being because you're putting love out and you don't feel it being received. And into that void, implants come in. So anger, self-loathing, regret, shame, loss, all of these things. And so if we can trace everything back to that wound is because I love. So let's return to the love. And when I feel love, and Zane has talked about, we go around and our mission is to also just celebrate life on this planet, and we create these shrines called apachetas that was taught to us by Zane's uncle. And when we create these, the last one that we built, we placed this perfect triangle stone. It's like a giant cairn on these power spots. And this was a spontaneous one that we created. And we put the capstone, and a thunder being, boom, thunder came. One clap of thunder, there was no storm, it was just one clap. And when you start to acknowledge these things as, wow, that is the earth saying thank you, it just accelerates the process where you can feel the response of Earth Mother embracing you. And so it's okay if you feel a void, it's okay if you don't feel the return of love. And the more you attune to, okay, I'm actually going to pay attention to this bird that's right there, and I'm going to say this is here for me, and feel that love so I can fill my field with love so there's no room for distortion. It's not about I'm special and better than everyone else, so the earth is sending me this bird that nobody else gets. It's for all of us, but it is for us, and that acknowledgement is creating a field of love so there's no room for the distortion. And
That's
during
beautiful.
Yeah, it is
Thank you.
beautiful. Well, and I think it's one of the reasons why, we always return again and again to Earth. Like, Earth is, I was saying earlier today, it's always been our compass. It's always been my compass, personally. I've never at any moment doubted that the Earth is a pristine, immaculate creation. And it's always hurt me by the same token to see destruction to the planet, because there's this part of me that remembers how absolutely sacred the planet is. And so when we still continue to go on these wilderness adventures, to go spend time like backpacking or just out walking on the land or on the rivers, there's this perfect resonance, like all of the distortion that exists in human creation of these cities, civilizations, it doesn't exist there. And so you have this interaction where you're like, wow, that's beautiful. And then you feel the beauty and love pouring back into your field. And it's perfect symbiosis, right? And it's so healing. Like it's so essential for my process as well to go and recharge before returning into civilization and continuing the process of transmutation, which I think is really at the core what we're all here to do: transmute the old filthy, nasty, infiltrated frequencies out of the planet and bring in the new dimensional blueprints so that we can build new Earth, right?
Bam, baby.